Nickelodeon's early years were interesting. Let's check it out. Early years of Nickelodeon. This is probably before I was born, I believe. Maybe, maybe not.
When you think back to your childhood, what's the first television network that sticks out in your mind? What is it about that network you remember so vividly? Whether it was
Guys, what? I only know 3 of those
the
channels.
visuals, the sounds, or the
YTV and Jetix.
shows,
What is it? What are those guys? Is that like UK?
each channel had a way of cultivating its own distinct
Disney
personality
Channel.
that, if done right, created an atmosphere that blended seamlessly with the shows they aired. It's the reason Kids Next Door feels so Cartoon Network, or why The Sweet Life
Does it really?
of Zack and Cody feels so Disney.
Totally didn't watch those shows. I always liked I have a bias towards animated shows. That's what I prefer watching, guys. Not gonna lie.
And this wasn't a coincidence. Successful networks made a real effort to produce or acquire programs that truly aligned with the brand's image, and that really gave kids something to latch onto, something to identify with. And in the beginning, that was
Television, guys.
certainly not the case with Nickelodeon. Considering its success, it's hard to believe that
Is SpongeBob the poster boy of Nickelodeon, guys? Kind of looks like it.
Nickelodeon's rise as a network was anything but extraordinary. And yet, the problems the company faced in their formative years nearly forced them to close their doors early.
What? No way.
So, what exactly happened? Well, it all started in 1979 when Warner, technically Warner Amex,
That's Warner's. It looks like an app.
was looking for a
Looks like a strange like financial app symbol.
place to dump all their children's shows. It was a pretty unique predicament. Essentially, Warner had the rights to multiple different properties, but didn't have the space to air them on any of their other networks. That's when the
Dang, bro, they're getting so rich that they have like an overflow.
idea struck. Why not create a channel that airs kids' shows all day, every day? And in reality, it was quite the groundbreaking idea. Until then, most children's shows aired on regular adult channels like PBS or ABC, and
Nah, they got changed that ASAP, bro. ASAP, man.
only played during specific time blocks, which resulted in the advent of Saturday morning cartoons.
Are Saturday morning cartoons still a thing? I'm pretty sure they are, guys.
Warner wanted to do away with that and exclusively air
Dang, bro. Nah, man. The kids will not like if Warner does that.
their children's shows for the vast majority of the day, and most importantly, without commercials.
What?
That was actually a big
OMG.
part of this operation.
Hey, TV shows without commercials exist. You just gotta pay for a premium streaming service.
You see, during
Some you pay for and you still get commercials. You gotta pay for the premium without commercials.
the late 70s to early 80s, parents were becoming increasingly concerned with the impact commercials had on the minds of their children, equating them to be just as harmful as candy or violent
Guys, why does that happen when anything new comes out, bro? Almost like it's a rational thing to happen.
toys.
Because it is.
Pretty progressive thinking for a time when you could still smoke in restaurants.
Gosh, bro.
Now, this might
My lungs, man.
lead you to ask,
Cauliflower and cheese sauce. Why do I not see that anywhere nowadays?
if there were no commercials, then how would the network make money? And that was the
Alphagetti? What?
beauty of it. It wouldn't. Warner's new children's channel was to be what is known as a loss leader, a product sold at a loss in the attempt to attract more customers. You see, Warner wasn't interested in developing a groundbreaking new network exclusively
A loss leader, guys.
for children. They were looking to sell cable packages and knew that an attractive, commercial-free network would incentivize customers to subscribe. So Warner went to work.
Subscribe. Now, this is a different context of subscribe than the YouTube subscribe.
Placing the network's development
Image used for dramatization.
in the hands of Dr. Vivian Horner, an educator and former director of research at PBS. And judging by their tight deadlines, Warner had made it quite clear that they weren't looking for a drawn-out passion project. This prompted the company to
What's a drawn-out passion project?
hire Joseph Yotzi, a designer from New York that was willing to help launch the
Guys, does that shirt like sell? I'm sure that kind of shirt sells so much nowadays. That I love it. And why?
network within the tightly
Like I would buy that shirt if I went to New York, like a standard tourist, bro.
spun timeframe. Yotzi's agency was primarily tasked with designing a logo for the channel, but more importantly, coming up with
Bro, when they say channel, I think they're talking about YouTube channel, but they're not. Even though they do have a YouTube channel, so hey, it's like they are, but they aren't.
a name. Yotzi recalls assigning this task to practically anyone in the agency that could hold a pencil, and
What?
sorted through a list of over 150 names before finally settling on Nickelodeon. When Horner heard the name for the first time,
Man, I really hope you offer the guy who made up that name a bonus or something, guys. Really hope.
she wasn't overly thrilled with the choice, and in a way, it was quite understandable. Today, the word Nickelodeon is almost exclusively associated with the TV network, but in 1979,
I mean, what else would it be associated with?
it was nothing short of archaic. For those who don't know,
'Cause I see this word being thrown around a lot, and I still have no idea what it means.
a Nickelodeon was
I kind of do.
a term used in the early 1900s for theaters that played short films for the cost of a nickel. It was
Oh,
definitely a dead term, but some executives must have liked the
well, I finally know the reason, guys. I watched it so much, and I never knew why it was called that. Let's go, let's go.
way it rolled off the tongue, because it was the name that was ultimately chosen for the network. This decision was received with mixed opinions by Warner staff. For starters, Warner was worried that children wouldn't know what a Nickelodeon was.
Oh, I did not know. I did not know, guys.
And, I mean, they were right. Chances are not even the parents would be familiar. The company also shared concerns that the name was simply too hard to pronounce, let alone spell, especially for a children's network. Again, with hindsight, it's clear that Nickelodeon was a catchy and fun word to say, but at the same time, Warner wasn't all too eager to be taking risks. This meant they were happy to point out
Fun thing to
and
say.
all problems that the name brought up, including the issue of the name's proportions. This is a weird one. You see, most televisions at the time displayed pictures in a 4:3 aspect ratio, and the word Nickelodeon did very little to command the territory of a screen that shape. The word was just too skinny. Other networks did a much
What?
better job of condensing their names or beefing up their logos to help fill the screen.
Okay, that's all they had to do then.
But
The way he presented, what he's trying to explain here is different, guys.
Nickelodeons did not.
We took everything that was wrong with children's television and got rid of it.
As you can see, Yotzi's
They got rid of it and are trying to replace it.
original design for the logo was quite the interpretation. Instead of taking an old word and reinventing it in a creative new
The Young People's Satellite Network. Oh my gosh.
way, Yotzi
Hold on, hold on. We gotta take a screenshot. That is what there's. That is what their logo looks like. All right.
contraption used for viewing moving pictures in the late 1800s. Topical, right? Below the word mark, the subtitle identifies the network as a children's channel, which is supposedly the icing on the cake in their attempt at some clever juxtaposition. From an aesthetic standpoint, the logo was interesting, but considering the context, it came off as alienating to the audience it was actually in.
As anything new comes off as alienating to anyone, bro. Anything new will come off alienating, bro. It's just how the life works.
Intended for. In Yotzi's defense, he and his team received virtually zero feedback from Warner, who were in a rush to debut their new channel at an upcoming trade show. As a result,
Oh man, that sucks. We don't have trade shows no more. Now it's just the company's doing their own kind of trade show for their own instead of everybody is doing it all together. It's not that way 100%, but it kind of is.
The project felt incredibly rushed, and Nickelodeon was subsequently thrown on air after only a few short months of development. The channel officially began its broadcast on April 1st, 1979, and considering the logo, it very well could have been misinterpreted as an April Fool's joke. But the debut supposedly
Hey, they had the right idea with the slime.
went well.
However, some of the Nickelodeon, some of those, they had like a slime game show, man. They were all about the slime, for lack of a better, like, man, I wish that they had like a slime game show. I just don't know what it was called, man. I really want to watch it again, because I watched it. It was kind of strange.
Launching with over 600,000 subscribers and claiming the title as the world's first ever children's network. In the
Is it really, though, is the question.
beginning, Nickelodeon boasted a wide array of non-violent educational programming, which was quite a hit with concerned parents. These values would be emphasized the following year when Cy Schneider would take on the role as president of Nickelodeon. Oh, and it's important to mention that Cy Schneider bears no relation to Mr. Dan Schneider. Just thought I'd clear the air on that.
Alright, we got it cleared.
Mr. Schneider helped to strengthen the channel's
I don't know much about the Dan Schneider except his, like, feet thingy. We're gonna have to watch a video about him.
push for parent-approved programming, introducing the era of Nickelodeon that would come to be known as the Green Vegetable Era, for its emphasis on educational content. After about 2
Hey, I'm all for that.
years of this approach, Nickelodeon would opt for their first real rebranding, hiring world-renowned graphic designer Lou Dorfman to rework their logo. Dorfman's new interpretation would feature a rainbow-colored typeface in front of a shining silver ball. The motion graphics involved
Hey, it's not even that bad of a logo.
in the logo's
That's a logo so aesthetically pleasing, I felt like I even grew up with that logo, even though it wasn't a logo.
presentation were incredibly grandiose and flashy, with an intro song that kinda slapped.
Nah, I don't like their intro. Now, they didn't have a mascot then, so I'll cut them some slack. A lot of slack, actually. But still. It's a decent intro, actually.
The whole thing made for quite an impressive entrance, but it felt like something you would come to expect from a late-night show, and not so much from a children's network. The end of the intro
Kinda, I guess.
would conclude with a statement recognizing Nickelodeon as an official recommendation of the National Education Association. A statement
Ooh, okay, we're getting credentials now.
that was clearly meant for parents. If it wasn't clear by now, Nickelodeon was gazing right over the heads of their target audience, making absolutely zero effort to address them directly, and frankly,
Yeah, but what kind of shows did they have?
it was kind of insulting. Nickelodeon had made the naive assumption that as long as they were appealing to parents, the children would follow, and that was most certainly not the case. And by 1984, this kind of thinking would finally come back to bite. After about 5 years of low ratings,
Imagine if reality really was like that, though.
executives at Warner would come to learn the hard truth.
Oh my gosh.
Nickelodeon was not cool.
What?
Word on the playground was that Nickelodeon was the boring channel, and kids would go as far as to make fun of other kids just for watching it. Nickelodeon's
Bro, kids, savage.
programming manager, Geraldine Laybourne, would come to find out that her own son was embarrassed that he had a mother working for Nickelodeon. It was that bad.
Bro, that's so mean.
By 1984,
Even back then, kids were being mean.
Nickelodeon was operating at a loss of $10 million, finishing dead last in ratings across all US cable channels.
It happens with newer companies.
And in a lot of ways,
Yeah, I'm at a dead loss doing these reactions, but I'm still gonna truck on through.
they kind of deserved it. Up until this point, Nickelodeon gave off a very
How do you do, fellow kids?
vibe, which
Guys,
created the feeling that the entire channel was just run by a bunch of boring adults. And
what they need to get the animated shows.
it kinda was. Warner also knew that Nickelodeon's look and feel wasn't resonating with children.
Hold on, guys. Let me take a new screenshot. Just so I can have that logo as well. Okay. Sorry.
And was in need of yet another rework. This would motivate the company to call
Hey, at least see, man. That's why you even if your business is failing, you just keep on trucking and you could become as big as Nickelodeon.
two
Now, granted, they did have like millions of dollars in funding.
experts in brand development, Fred Seibert and Alan Goodman. Little did they know, these would be the minds that would change Nickelodeon forever. Fred and Alan were two industry experts that had just finished developing the brand identity for MTV, which
Industry experts? Well, they know what they're doing then.
was another channel under the Warner umbrella. The image that the pair had crafted for the channel was quite literally iconic and set a new precedent for cable television, helping to forge a culture for music that went on to define an entire generation. The duo had recently left Warner to start their own venture, but were offered a deal to be rehired as contractors. Fred and Alan were hesitant about the offer. In reality, they really had no interest in working on children's television, but with their joint venture still in its infancy, the pair could really use the money. This would eventually incentivize the company to accept the project.
Hey, I could also really use some money as well. Right, guys? Right, guys?
And in 1984, Fred Allen Incorporated got started
This is how it was back then. A lot less tattoos, I guess.
rebranding Nickelodeon. Right out the gate, Fred and Alan showed heavy interest in the use of motion for the new logo. This was an element of design that was
Teletoon.
quite unique to the medium of television, and it allowed for TV logos to add an entirely different dimension to their designs. Now, this wasn't a completely new concept for television intros. In fact, most network bumpers incorporated some element of motion in their logos. But the pair felt that previous implementations were underutilizing the technique.
Gosh, man. I'm so glad we're away from this era.
Fred and Alan knew they wanted to improve on this, and aimed to develop a logo with motion built into the core of its design. The team poured over a
They were editing on that thing? Oh my gosh.
variety of different ideas, and upon review, felt like the majority of them had fallen short of their intended vision.
I can't believe we were still had technology.
That was until they
Look
turned
at those giant computers,
their
man.
attention to
So much hardware.
a simple orange splat doodled on one of their sketchbooks. At the time, the splat was very much a throwaway draft that had failed to catch their initial attention. But something about the orange caught their eye. As it stood,
Now, the slime era.
almost nothing on TV was orange. The color was obnoxiously loud, and it clashed with everything, a turnoff for most designers. But in a way it intrigued them. The splat was a flat, overly simplistic, and silly design that actually looked like it could have been made by a kid. And maybe that's exactly what children's television was missing.
I actually think they got it right. Giga with that logo, man.
Before this, all of Nickelodeon's previous designs were somewhat alienating to the audiences they pandered to, with their references to archaic machinery and their over-the-top
Yeah, how are kids gonna know about archaic machinery, guys? I didn't learn about that until like my 20s or something, bro.
intros. The splat was the perfect antithesis, reflecting a playful attitude that would hopefully resonate with children. The only thing left to do was convince the executives of their theory. So Fred and Alan threw away the rest of their drafts and went all in with the splat, stamping the logo with the word Nickelodeon, which was written in the now famous balloon font typeface. When they presented their design to the
Guys, we gotta figure out what kind of font Mr. Beast uses. The Mr. Beast font.
executives at Warner,
Do they still even use this logo?
they were
I swear they changed it.
short of disappointed. Was this
That's rude.
really the best they could come up with? Weren't these two responsible for single-handedly defining the face of music on television just a few years prior? And why the hell would you use orange? The executives hated the logo for
Bro, it's not that deep.
all the reasons Fred and Alan loved it, and it took quite a lot of convincing to change that.
Like they're being the polar opposite.
Thankfully, Nickelodeon would end up greenlighting the design, a decision that would ultimately launch the network into its golden age. Immediately after the thumbs up, Fred and Alan would work alongside other creatives to flesh out the rest of the brand's image. The team's first major innovation was deciding to slap the network's wordmark on anything orange, not just a splat. This included feet, stars, robots, fish, cars, bugs, boats, you name
Good idea.
it. As long as there was an orange silhouette behind it, the symbol was unmistakably Nickelodeon. And that was the genius of it. Fred and Alan wanted to design something that was just as unpredictable as kids themselves, and they accomplished this by disregarding consistency in almost all its forms. This gave the logo
Look at these. I really like these early animations.
infinite possibilities when it came to the
And mini golf is pretty fun as well.
incorporation of motion, because the shape the logo could take on was limitless in itself. As for the task of producing a sound for the channel, Fred and Alan leaned heavily in favor of using doo-wop style acapellas for intro music. Again, the executives at Nickelodeon challenged them.
Bro, doo-wop style out capella.
Wasn't doo-wop too old-fashioned? Why not do something more current like rock and roll? But
I don't even know how it sounds.
Fred and Alan pushed back,
Rock and roll, guys.
and once again,
Rock and roll. Talk
eventually
about
had their way.
dead genres of rock and roll. No, not that dead, but still a little dead.
This would inspire the team to hire the world-renowned doo-wop
Wait, does this guy have free tattooed on his face? That I didn't point it out the first time he showed it, but does he really?
group, the Jive
It's so
5, to compose a simple yet infectiously catchy
interesting.
song for network bumpers. The tune was playful, silly, and most importantly, easy to sing along to. This air of simplicity contributed to Fred and Alan's overall goal of developing a network that looked and sounded like it could have been made by children. And in hindsight, that's exactly
Hey, they're kids at heart.
what kids wanted. They didn't want to feel like they were being pandered to or told what was best for them. They wanted to feel pride of ownership, like Nickelodeon was a special club just for kids. And in all aspects, Fred and Alan were succeeding.
Well, they adjusted and they got the results.
By the end of 1984, the team had devised an entirely new identity for Nickelodeon, and were ready to share it with the world. But would a brand rework really have enough of an impact to inspire a complete cultural shift within the company? Probably not. You see, prior to the rework, Nickelodeon had a
But dang, bro, nothing about the shows.
bad habit of constantly claiming
That's what I really wanted to hear about,
they
guys.
were the fun channel. Fred and Alan were firm believers that Nick had to quit saying they were fun and actually be fun, because kids could definitely tell
Yeah, take away that silly slogan,
the
bro.
difference. That same year, Geraldine Laybourne was appointed vice president of Nickelodeon after 4 years as a programming manager. Geraldine would work with Fred and Alan to acquire new shows for the channel, shows that kids could actually get excited about, not just the parents.
Oh, there's one of the game shows, man. Those are fun to watch.
And eventually, their work would pay off. Just 6 months after the brand rework, Nickelodeon would skyrocket in popularity, leaping from the absolute bottom of ratings to becoming the highest rated network in children's television. And
There you
this
have
kind
it.
of success would continue for a very long time. Over the next
Still one of the, still probably the most, if not one of the most highest rated shows out there still.
2 decades, Nickelodeon would grow tremendously, and even maintained its spot as the #1 rated kids network long after the inception of its competitors. Their success would give rise to a multitude of different sister channels, including, at one point, Noggin, a channel dedicated to children's education.
I still remember that one.
Funny how things work out. The company would even take the leap into producing their own programs, with TV shows, movies, and
That was good.
characters
Rugrats was good.
that went on to define entire
SpongeBob. Oh, I didn't even know they made that.
generations.
That's like their flagship show.
As for Fred and Alan, well, they would continue to push the network forward for decades to come. The pair co-founded the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, Nick at Night, and a wide assortment of marketing strategies
His Choice Awards is a huge thing.
that helped make Nickelodeon a household name.
Pizza.
Fred and Alan would also
Sorry, I'm hungry today, guys. I did not eat at all yesterday.
branch off to pursue solo projects. Alan Goodman would go on to co-create a number of shows for the network, while Fred Seibert founded Frederator Studios.
Frederator.
Frederator was a tremendous success, producing some of the most iconic television shows of the past 2 decades. As
Shows that I didn't really watch growing up.
for Nickelodeon, the network would eventually receive another brand rework in 2009, after over 25 years of the orange splat. And while the network continued to stay true to their monochromatic color palette, the new brand identity felt a little more sterile and a little less adventurous than before. But even with the changes,
Sterile?
there has always been
Oh my gosh.
one thing
Why
that
did that dog do that,
has
though?
remained the same. Whether it was SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, the Rugrats, or
I watched Nickelodeon, but I watched Cartoon Network a little more.
Jimmy Neutron,
A little more.
every Nickelodeon show has always told stories about children. And that's not by coincidence. One of Nickelodeon's earliest initiatives was to ensure that all their television productions told stories about kids. And maybe that's because early on, they learned that that was what it was all about.
What else could it be about, fam?
Hey guys, Nick here. I'm actually recording this video with a script because after numerous attempts, I've learned that I am incapable of forming a sentence without reading off a piece of paper. So, here we are. Anyways, for most of you, this is
Same here, kind of.
probably the first time you've seen my face, and if you decide to stick around, it probably won't be the last. You see, I recently made a pretty lengthy series of purchases to get this whole setup you're seeing here. And although it flooded my entire room with Amazon boxes, I think it was pretty worth it. Better be worth it. I just wanted to make this video really quick to let you guys know that I'm going on a little hiatus for the next 1 to 2 months, but when I'm back, I'll be taking the channel in a bit of a new direction. Familiar, but new. And this whole setup will definitely be a part of it. In the meantime, if you're interested, I actually have a Discord server which you guys can check out in the description below. We have over 40 people in there, I think, now, and everyone's a fan of the channel, and so far it's been an absolute blast. Also, I've been streaming right here on YouTube the past few months, so if you like Y2K era games and stuff that's similar, well, feel free to pop in Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard to check that thing that's
Alright guys, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Got a nice little vlog style update, which I actually do like for channels at the end there, so. As a graphic designer, find it fascinating how Nickelodeon's success is due to rebranding. Happens. Later, guys.